Pakistan had some incredible moments, but it's Australia who take the series 2-0 and the 16th consecutive win against Pakistan. Welcome to the shiny side. I'm your host, Faris, and we have from Houston, Omer Basir. How's it going, Omer?
Hi, Faris. Going well. How are you?
I'm all right. So I guess you've seen a lot of action early in the morning for us, at a better time for you, perhaps. But what's your initial thoughts, initial reactions a few hours later?
Man, so went to bed watching cricket, wake up and start talking to you about cricket. Life is good, right? Yeah, I think great. I mean, exciting Test cricket ongoing in Australia and South Africa. So I think it's a good time to be a cricket fan.
Yeah. Instead of putting you guys on the spot, I'll do the summary myself today. So there's a 55-second summary for this game. So to kick things off, again, Australia batted first. It was a bit of stop-start innings. They made 318, including 50 extras. Pakistan were 124 for 1 in response with Shafiq on 64, but then somehow we were 260 all out. Australia had a 50-run lead. And then came the key moment where Australia was 16 for 4, only 65 ahead, 6 wickets in hand, where Shaheen and Mir Hamza did really well, took 2 wickets. Mir Hamza got 2 and 2, and it looked like it was on. At which point, Mitch Marsh counter-attacked at 20. Asad Shafiq dropped another sitter, and I think that became a key moment in the game. He went on to make 96. Australia finished at, 262. They set us a target of 320, and then I guess we were never really in it. Again, once we batted, Shah Masood and Babar were batting. We were at 120 for 2, but again, at some point, Rizwan's put some resistance, but eventually we were all out with a 75-run loss. That's 59 seconds. So yeah, Omar, where do we start, right? I guess it's important to highlight one thing. So if you look at the last 3 years of Australia's home tests, this was by far the closest any team has taken them. We lost by less than 100 runs in the last 12 tests, last 3 years. No team, either they've been rain-affected draws or they've been these massive wins, 6 wickets or more, or 200 wickets or more. Even if you go a bit further back, if you go back to the last 5 years, last 25 tests at home, except for 2 tests against India, this is by far the third best performance anyone's done against Australia. So do you think I'm clutching on straws here, or do you think there's something in there?
No, absolutely. This is great. I mean, it was disappointing to lose having come so close, but I don't think any of us expected to get this close. So I think, no, great performance by the boys. I mean, the biggest thing for me was, batting, if you look at the last couple of series Pakistan has visited, we've put up scores of over 300, even 400 a couple of times. So we've batted okay. Usually where we've suffered actually for a very long time is getting 20 wickets, and we did it. Right, we did it. So this was a big highlight. I think
only the 8th time in cricket in Australia across, I don't know how, 30 plus games we've got 20 wickets in a game.
And this was what our B team, C team bowling lineup, right? Some would argue. I mean, so this was great performance. Lots to take out from it.
Yeah, and it was a really weird kind of dynamic where every single day, if you only saw the score at the end of the day, you say, hang on, Australia's on top. What's the fuss about? But especially day 2, 3, 4, on day 2 when we were 120 for 1, on day 3 when we had them at 16 for 4, and today perhaps 120 for 2 again, there were moments where I won't say it was on, but we were like, hang on, another 20 minutes go our way and we are massively in this game. But somehow at the end of the day, we just couldn't finish things off.
It's almost like it's almost like following our captain's batting, right? When he's in there, you're like, Bus, he's about to take the game away and he's going to score big and we're winning this. But then you also think he's about to get out the way risky business he's doing. So it's almost like the game, mirrored his personality or the way he's playing. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was a very good test match. I mean, that's what you want to see in a test match, right? How the ebbs and flows. So I think it was great.
I mean, that's what they're saying. It's probably the best test match in Australia in 3+ years. In terms of, so you mentioned the captain. So, I mean, he had a good game. I mean, if you can call it a good game, right? Like a 250, sure. I mean, it's a low-scoring game. So if you score 120 odd, that's a decent effort. He kind of led the way. He captained quite well. How do you see his performance, A, as captain and B, as a batsman?
Yeah, I think overall, look, he still is getting out earlier than we expect, but I think it's honestly an A. He gets an A overall. Great captaincy, good leadership. The way he handled the bowlers, he changed up people. And at the end of the day, what we've always struggled with is the intent piece of it, right? I think the intent is the big difference, and that's why it went so close. While we were batting, while we were bowling, we never really let Australia run away with it. They could have, but we always were in the game. And I think that's down to great leadership. So I think batting, and he kept us in the game the entire time he was on the crease. You could tell Australia was under pressure.
Yeah. And I didn't get a chance to check this, but in both innings, we actually had a better run rate across the game than Australia did. I'm not sure if we've ever done that against Australia before, by the way. So,
Man, if that's true, that's going to be big. That's going to
yeah.
be big. All I
But
can, anytime I think Pakistan, Australia, I just think of Gilchrist and Hayden's just
yeah, no, so
smashing
we had a
us.
better
And
run rate for whatever it's worth, right? I mean, we spoke about this the last time. I don't necessarily care what the run rate is. We should play the way we score the most runs, right? But if it means you score fast, you score fast. Uh, can we call it Shaheen's best showing in an overseas test match for a while? I feel like, again, with the new ball especially, he really was on this time around.
I mean, in a while, this year we've only played in Asia, right?
Yeah,
So it's I mean, better conditions. I think probably the
yeah,
first time he's got some decent conditions. He was really good. Yeah, he was good. I think we want a lot more from the Shaheen we know, but yeah,
yeah,
for sure, good outing for him.
yeah. And in terms of the bowling overall, do you think we went with the right attack? Was leaving Sajid Khan justified for perhaps Hassan Ali or whoever? And then second part of my question, part of the bowling, Mir Hamza. Do you think he had two really good balls? Do you think he's somebody we will be seeing a lot more in Test cricket?
So on the spinner front, I think it was again, good selection, brave
Yeah,
selection, right?
brave
To leave
selection.
out, yeah. So again, kudos to the captain and the team and the management there. But Salman Agha barely spun the ball. Nathan Lyons, a fairly decent spinner of the ball, barely could get anything
Yeah,
going. 500 plus wicket taken. We talked about it a few episodes ago. So I think there was nothing in it for the spinner. So I think right decision. The ball swung and seamed throughout the innings. So I think having that extra pacer was extremely beneficial. So I think that was awesome. On Mir Hamza, I think these are the conditions he excels in, right? He's not one of those express pace bowlers. He's a good disciplined. He's almost like a Muhammad Abbas, left-handed Muhammad
yeah,
Abbas, right? He lands it in the right areas. He can move the ball both ways. By the way, key in this bowling
yeah,
lineup. Not
yeah,
everyone in a bowling
yeah,
lineup can do it. And man, he bowled some beauties. I mean, this guy was awesome. And if he's given those conditions, I think he's going to be awesome.
yeah. And I think we have to talk about Pat Cummins. I almost feel like quietly he's suddenly becoming perhaps the most valuable player in cricket right now, right? And I don't mean in terms of IPL numbers, I mean money. I mean generally speaking, right? Because he's doing it all. He took 10 wickets in this game. He is now has more Test wickets than anybody else this year. And somehow, he's got the pace of a Stark, but he's got the accuracy of a Hazelwood, and he's got this incredible skill of perhaps neither of those guys, right? So it's just an incredible all-around package. And I sometimes feel like because he's so good at everything, you don't really label him as, because Stark is the swinging left arm guy, while Hazelwood is a really accurate guy who gets compared to McGrath. But Cummins has everything, and his numbers are showing it again and again.
Man, he's phenomenal. He's my favorite bowler by far. And to your point, right? He can do it all. But I think what I love about him is he also wears different hats. Where you go back to the ODI World Cup final, he was the guy just putting pressure, bowling those back of a length deliveries. He wasn't trying to, pitch it up and get those wickets. And then here he is now getting people out through either bounce or swing and seam. And some statistics back it up, right? So he has the second highest average, I think, after Glenn McGrath for all of Australian bowlers. Highest strike rate for all Australian bowlers. Big deal when you're comparing to McGrath and Shane and all these guys. So man, phenomenal bowler. And he just kept coming at the Pakistanis. That was the biggest difference. There was no break at all.
And it almost seems like at every point in this game, whenever we got ahead, Pat Cummins said, "Hang on, I'm going to come on to bowl," and he made things happen every single time.
Correct. And he's not, he's a captain as well. And you don't, typically fast bowlers are those, they're getting mad and you're yelling at the opposition, getting in their faces. He's such a cool customer. He's smiling through all of it.
He's a real leader of men. Even if you look at how he's handled other things off the field stuff, the Johnny Bairstow stuff in the Ashes, the whole Usman Khawaja issue before this game, and how he's really backed his players, right? So again, he seems to be, I think, the most influential captain in cricket, I would say, right now. And I really want to see how that develops.
A phenomenal bowler,
the other guy I want to talk about, perhaps is the best number 6 in cricket right now, is Mitch Marsh. Since he's come back for the Ashes at number 6, he's perhaps counter-attacking like nobody else. And this is also a time where, unfortunately, Stokes and Hardik Pandya are not really fit enough to be all-rounders, right? So he's probably, I know he doesn't bowl so much, but with the bat, he's just incredible. And I just love watching him play.
Yeah, he's great. Risk takers, right? He gave us a chance, we didn't take it, but I mean, you give him a half chance, he's going to take it, right? He's one of these, and he's going to take the game away from you very quickly. You mentioned a run rate not being so critical, but it can be when you come in and change the course of a game with a quick 50, 60, 70, right? So I think that's his strength, is he changes the games in an hour, and before you realize it, it's too late and you're sort of behind.
And generally, I mean, this day he obviously came in really early. Otherwise, when he comes in, the bowlers and the second and third spell, so he really is the best guy to cash in. And you know, like, he's essentially keeping out what Australia refer to as generational talent, which is Cam Green. He's come in place of Cam Green, and he's managed keeping him out of the 11. So, well done to Mitch. So Abdullah Shafiq, a lot of us have thought is the best new batsman coming out of Pakistan. How do you rate, and I'm going to try not to think about his fielding as I have this conversation, but how do you rate Abdullah Shafiq, the batsman's first showing in Australia on an away tour?
And you say that, but I just keep visualizing him dropping those catches. But great batting, great batting. I mean, actually, both our openers have really survived it well. The first 10, 15, 20 overs, they've got past the toughest period. So, you know, both of them are starting really well. Abdullah Shafiq is obviously playing longer and playing a little more. I think his last innings, he played a little bit more aggressive, scored faster. So, again, it set the tone early on. Extremely critical to Pakistan's successes is getting that start. So, I mean.
And you're right. Like, we grew up in the 90s, right? So we used to watch Pakistan lose 4 wickets in the new ball in Australia, right? And that hasn't happened at all this series. So that's definitely, right, I would say, a big plus.
And you know, every time he bats, he looks in control. It doesn't look like he's struggling. It doesn't look like the bowlers are on top of him. That's the best thing, is he looks like he knows what he's doing. So I think it's a phenomenal.
And since you mentioned the openers, is Imam a problem? Or do you think Imam is fine? We should persist with him?
I think Imam is a problem. You know, you win games by putting the opposition under pressure, especially if you get pitches like these. You can't just stick around, right? So he's doing all the hard work early on. He's just, I think it's a mindset issue where I think he's got very good technique because he's surviving all these amazing spells, but because he's hanging out for so long doing nothing, he's eventually going to get out. It's just going to happen. So I think we you know, a lot of people want to see Saim Ayub coming on the top of the order. I think it'd be a gamble. You know, I'm kind of for it, but at the same time, it's like, what if the guy gets out early on? At the moment, we're not losing a wicket in the first 15 overs. So when the number 3 comes in, it's not a bad situation, even though we don't have that many runs on the board. But number 3 coming in at, you know, 40 for 1 at 15 overs or 40 for 1 in 6 overs is very different when starts firing and goes firing.
And I guess we have to talk about Babar Azam now, right? So there's 2 schools of thoughts here. There's a school of thought that says Babar Azam to kabhi player hi nahi tha, and usko Pakistan media ne yahan chadhaya hua hai. I mean, there's a laughable school of thought. And, you know, like, he's averaging 22 in this year, of course, 5 tests only. And then the other school of thought, or perhaps the more rational school of thought, is we only played 5 tests this year. They've had 4 months gaps in the middle. So he's clearly not having the best time. He's not having the best year in test cricket, especially. Do you see that? What's your take on Babar's form at this moment?
So I'll get to the moment in a sec, but just to set the baseline, right? The guy has performed enough times in enough conditions over enough years that he is an amazing batsman, hands down. There is no comparison. We can pull up all the statistics we want on Babar in the different places he's played, in the ODI game, in the test game. He's had performances, right? So let's just accept that first, that he has performed, okay? Now we can focus on the present. You said you have 5 tests, which is not a big sample size, but yeah, if somebody is, you know, we believe is the grade of the game, you start now doubting what's going on, right? So I definitely see a blip in his form. We saw that a little bit in the ODI World Cup as well, and we're seeing a little bit of this. But I think the way, if you watch this test ball by ball, the way he was set up for those balls by Cummins, it was phenomenal, right? They were getting those outswingers going, and he was very tight early on, very tight, right? They kept getting him, you know, getting his bat out there. So again, kudos to the bowlers as well. Let's not forget, you know, he's playing against the best pace bowling lineup out there. Okay,
especially in this game.
But yes, absolutely.
I think especially in this game, 2 of the best bowlers bowled in this game were the ones that got Babar Azam out, I would say.
Correct. Now, you could say an informed Babar, or the top of his game, you'd maybe expect him to maybe inside edge it before he gets, you know, bowled, or maybe
doesn't really matter, right?
LBW. Those are all things we could say maybe an informed Babar could have done slightly better. But I mean, yes, we expect a big score from him. He was doing well in the game, right? He came in, he started putting the pressure on Aussies, and he got a really good ball. So yeah, I mean, It's a slight blip, but nothing really tough. Considering I heard a comment somebody saying that should we consider dropping Babar? I mean, it's honestly the most absurd comment I've heard in a very
Yeah,
long
I
time.
mean, it is right, but like people say absurd stuff. Uh, I guess one positive has been Rizwan, who came in, play a test match after 5, 6 games for us across the board. I mean, I know on paper we gave 25 buys, but most of them were due to extremely wayward bowling more than anything else. But he's been solid with the bat, solid with the behind the wicket, and a good addition to the team.
Yeah, Rizwan was awesome. I mean, it was a good horses for courses approach. Again, kudos to captaincy, right? You can easily say Sarfaraz scored a century the last game. I'm going to keep him in. And they did for the first test. So, I think he's been fair in that manner that he's kept the performers, but at the same time, very quick to see that tailor-made approach. And Rizwan had a good previous tour here, better than others. So I think he deserved his chance. Sarfaraz has struggled in every innings he's gone out there in Australia. He cannot play that short ball. He's definitely struggling.
Yeah.
So fair call, and Rizwan, I think paid it. I think paid it back in the way he played.
And at the end of all of this, we've had a good game. People are talking about how we came ready about Australia close, and then Hafiz comes out in the press conference and says something ridiculous like we were actually the better team, and he also said something along the lines of "KG, I don't understand technology; it's cursed." So like, what's up with this foot and mouth which our coach has, right? Like you've just played a very good game. Talk about your players, talk about the good things they've done, but saying we were the better team. And they asked Cummins about it, and he said, "Well, I don't know what that means because we won." So, and I agree with Cummins, right? There's no such thing as a better team. Whoever wins is the better team. Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound good when people say that. It's like when India lost the World Cup, people came and said we were better through the World Cup. I mean, no, you show up, you need to perform, and that's how you win a game. I mean, nothing else matters. Yeah, I mean, silly. Look, it was all of. If we had taken the couple of catches Abdullah Shafiq dropped, if we hadn't given 50 buys in the first innings, I think the result would have. That was honestly the only difference between the two teams, and they both played extremely good Test cricket.
Yeah. Okay, good stuff, Omer. Any thoughts? I mean, the game is still a few days away, but I don't know what you feel, but I feel like I feel like the chances of Pakistan winning the next test for me today are much higher today than they were a week ago, because I didn't really have much expectations coming into the game CG. But the way we've played, I feel like, I mean, we could have peaked here perhaps, but I still feel like, you know what, I'm looking forward to this SCG test and seeing how we shape up.
Yeah, absolutely excited. I expect this batting lineup to continue to get better. That's my expectation. I think it's a long lineup. It's a good lineup. I expect them to perform better. So I'm hoping that, we put some more runs on the board. SCG maybe a little bit more spin friendly than helping the Pacers as much. So it'll be interesting to see how our 11 shapes up and how it goes. But I think, yeah, team's doing well. We're behind the boys.
Yeah. For those of you watching, if you like what we're talking about, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. And if you have a comment on what went wrong for Pakistan or who the star was, please leave a comment. And we'll be back before the third test, talking about how to go about it. In the meantime, stay tuned to the shiny side.